Welcome back, and it's time for our next speaker to walk right on. Our keynote speaker today is a PepsiCo veteran, having worked at the company for 28 years in various roles, operating roles across India, APAC, and China. He is known for his hands-on understanding of the business commitment to developing talent and forging strong stakeholder partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, as he walks on, Senior Vice President and General Manager, India Beverages Sustainability, PepsiCo. Put your hands together for George Kovoor. Welcome, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks for coming back. I came back a bit earlier and I saw a lot of empty chairs, and I said, I'm going to be talking about, they call it 2 P's of business. And I said, I don't want a third P saying that I'm the preacher here just before lunch. I want to keep this real. I want to make it relevant. So before I start, maybe just a context, and some of the stuff I say might have some biases. I just thought I'll tell you where I'm coming from and where I've been. They said 28 years, I've actually been here 30 years, so time flies. I started at Unilever in Brook Bond, and then moved on to do a little time with Citi when I found out I'm not a banker and I'm really probably cut out for sales. And then I joined Pepsi in 1993, and I've been with them for 30 years, across India for about 10. Before this assignment, then I went to Asia Pacific in Bangkok. I was in China for 10 years, I went to New York for 6. And I came back to India last year. I just want to put that out as a disclaimer. I'm still just amazed at how much India has transformed and what's happening. I may not have the exact context that some of you have, but I'm excited about the opportunity of how things are shaping up here. I'm excited for what PepsiCo is going to be doing in the country. What I will talk about today is really just touch upon this whole concept of profit and purpose, and try and get it at a realistic level. But there is certainly an imperative which I believe exists in having a purpose in doing business. And then I'll bring it home in terms of how we do it at PepsiCo. Now, I know we do a lot of outdoor, but that doesn't necessarily mean what we do as a company may not be so relevant. So I was clear with the organizers, this is just to give you some perspective on how a big corporation is approaching business and profit. And then I'll leave some takeaways to the best of my knowledge, right? So let's kick things off with this, question of crossroads, where people think, okay, do we do purpose only and be a non-profit? Do we do profit only with no purpose? Why should we have purpose? What does that even mean? Now, clearly, those 2 signs aren't red. The right answer has to be blue, because I'm from Pepsi. And really, it is about why does profit with purpose really matter? What's that circle that makes it, you need profit. You can't have purpose without profit. That's a starting point. But why does that need to be a virtual cycle is what I'll try and touch on. But I want to bring it down to reality in the sense that many people think, there's a lot of hype around this concept of purpose. And, we get a lot of research that comes and tells us that consumers are willing to pay more if your brands are rooted in purpose, if the company is more purposeful. Now, sure, Patagonia and some of those companies have managed that. But there is a reality check. Most of us, and that's the research data, most of us are dealing with crazy inflation, are dealing with, a devaluing currency in some of the sourcing that we might be doing, and are dealing with the consumer price. And I can tell you, I sell 20 buck Pepsi and 5 rupees Lay's. I'm not going to get 21 or 6 because I, wrap it up in some form of purpose. So there is a reality thing. Yes, consumers are willing to pay for certain, there are consumers willing to pay, but most of us live in this reality thing of you're not going to necessarily get more money because you can put a wrapper of purpose around what you're selling. The other thing is they talk about, consumers nowadays are very passionate about climate change and consumption, and they really value these icons who are austere and aren't consumption plays. But just take I'm using international names because I didn't want to make some choices with the Indian ones. But Kylie Jenner is stands for consumption, right? And she's got 379 Instagram followers. Greta Thunberg has 14, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone, no, Greta doesn't have the reputation or the following. She does. But when it comes down to choices, the climate movement, if it was so big, the consumer would have been choosing differently in terms of icons. They are not, right? Then talk about, taking up a big cause. Brands should take up a big cause with purpose, and ask the guys at the Budweiser marketing department how they're feeling over the last 3 months, right? They took on a big cause, and it turned out to be something that actually hurt them more than anything else, right? So again, when you think of profit and purpose, let's not get down with the hype. We've got to be real. We've got to keep it practical. And that's an important part of how we should think about profit and purpose, right? So there is clearly a say-do gap between what the consumer says. Now, I'm not saying all the consumers don't want it. There is a sizable chunk of people who are absolutely committed to voting with their wallets for sustainability and purpose. But there's another gap that is still saying and not doing. And so what does that really mean? Like, should we drop this and move away? Why are we even talking about this topic? And I think that's where it becomes personal. And I think if all of us sitting in this room, I'll show you some pictures, and all of us, at the end of the day, we're human. And we all would rally around things that are good for us as a race, right? I don't think any one of us wants the planet to be starved of water. I think water is a human right that everyone should have access to. And any place in the world or any people in the world that don't have good water, that's not good for us. I don't think there's anyone in the room who say, I don't care, I want them to have no water, right? I don't think there's anyone in the room who would say, we should be consuming and eliminating our forests. I think everyone would say, we need forests, they're good for us. We also need our Instagram pictures on our holidays, and we like beautiful places, right? So mass consumption and destruction is not something that we all want. We would all agree that we don't want, plastics in the water. We don't want life to be impacted by plastics. I think that's a cause we can all rally around as humans. We don't want minority communities to be impacted or impoverished communities to remain where they are. We would love to see them all get out of poverty and improve their ways of living. And we certainly would like to see more diversity in corporate offices. Right? This is not a picture we would like. We would like a picture which is more diverse and has both race and gender diversity, right? So that is a human truth. And I think before we jump into the consumers willing to do it, and there's profit in purpose, let's just understand there's a responsibility as human beings for us to do it. And we as human beings would say that's right. And companies are human too, because they're made up of human beings. And if you look at the largest companies in the world, right? I took Apple as an example. If I take market capitalization, that's 3 trillion. 3 trillion is more than the GDP of Canada. Now you'd say that's market capitalizing is GDP, all right, so Apple is a $400 billion company in terms of revenue, and there are more than, that'll put it in the top 50 countries in the world, right? PepsiCo is a 260 market cap company. On market cap, it'll be in the, it would be bigger than Finland, Ukraine, and many others, right? So when we are big and we're made up of human beings who really want the world to be better, a company just has to accept that being a good company, being a good corporate is important. It's not because the consumer is demanding it, because there is a reality that we are all human and we need a better planet. If you don't go that way, I think what is the change, the catalyst on purpose is actually coming from a different place, not the consumer. Governments will get punitive, which means there's taxes, which means there's penalties, which means there's low profit, right? Investors, if you're starting a company and you're looking for investment, if you tell them, I don't care about ESG, well, good luck getting good funding, right? Or from a stable source. Or getting loans. Investors will demand that you have to be a good company, doing good things. Employees, all of us as humans want all those wonderful things. When employees join your company and you tell them, I don't care, I'm going to dump a lot more plastic into the ocean, you're not going to get the best talent. You're going to get employees leaving and saying, I want to go somewhere else. I don't feel good here. I can't face my family. I don't feel good here. And if you want to be a great place to work, therefore you have to care. And so it's not the consumer. It's the fact that companies are a collection of human beings, and we interact with human beings. We take money from human beings. We work with a government that's representing human beings, and all that is hurtling toward the fact that purpose is here, and there's no two ways about it. Anything, if you don't get good investors, your cost of capital goes up. If you have bad employees, your sales come down, and your retention is bad. So in the end, it all hits profit. Now let me take it down to PepsiCo, just talk about this as a big company. So we are very clear. We have this mission where we say it's about winning with what we call PepsiCo Positive. So the first thing to understand is winning is key. You're not here to say, no, let me lose, but I want to have purpose. Winning is what makes us a great company that innovates, that creates great brands, that generates great profit, that we can then deploy into purpose, right? So winning is absolutely key. But I think you step back and say, when you look at the stakeholders you want to delight with every sip and bite that we make in our products, we want to be good for our consumers. We want to be good for our customers. We want to be good for our associates in the communities we work. We want to be good for the planet and work within planetary boundaries. And we want to be a force of positive change, right? And it's an ideal that we strive towards. I don't think it's ever going to be, we're there, we've reached it, we've achieved our nirvana. But we know where we were when we were not thinking about this. And now we know what journey we want to go on. And I think the word I'm going to use is, there's an intentionality that companies need to take towards being committed to purpose, right? And then there's this thing of, therefore your brands have to represent purpose, and all your brands have suddenly got to be these fighters for human rights and causes and everything else. And I think our view is, not all brands. Some brands it works. It really does fit for some brands to fight for certain things, right? But it doesn't have to matter for every brand. At the end of the day, the important things for brand to be is relevant. And in order to be relevant, you have to be authentic, right? And in authenticity, it's not the product. It's how you work the end-to-end supply chain, or from beginning to end, how you behave and how you make and how you distribute and how you sell and what you stand for that matters. So we don't believe all brands need to have fights and be activists. We believe brands can be advocates, but they have to be authentic. And this is just a picture of the recent Pepsi advertising that we've done last year or this year, where we're just saying, hey, everyone, you do you. The world will pull you down, but just like a bubble of Pepsi that comes out and is unstoppable, we want you to be, do you, which is tu tera kar, and rise up just like the bubble of Pepsi. So we're trying to be authentic. We're still a fun product that people enjoy. We're not trying to preach, but we want to say, we stand for fizz, we stand for fun, we stand for authenticity, right? So let me just now touch on the second piece of what does PepsiCo Positive mean, and when we talk about it, and this end-to-end behavior. So it's not the brand or the product, but the end-to-end. And the way we look at it is, what kind of ingredients are we sourcing? Are they being sourced in a manner that is respectful of planetary boundaries, and what labor is being used, and what regenerative practices do they have? So agriculture, what sourcing do we do? That's the beginning. The middle part then becomes, how do we source those materials and convert them into our products? So the energy that we use, the materials that we use, the recyclability, the circularity of the materials that we use, all that comes under what we call value chain. The trucks that we use to deliver our products, all that is what, the carbon footprint that we kind of create. And then the third one is really about creating products that also have some kind of purpose in terms of positive choices. So some of our products are going to be fun. Some of our products are going to be super healthy. We want to make sure that consumers have more positive choices over time. So again, it's an ideal that we chase. We've come a long way from where we were, and I'll talk you through some of these things. And the filter we apply to this is, whatever we do, from the beginning of the value chain to the end, is we have a filter of saying, reduce the carbon footprint that you have, or the material footprint that you have, or the labor footprint, or everything that you can do to bring down usage. Recycle, so it stays circular and doesn't get into landfill. and then reimagine, because technology, in the way it's moving, is going to open up a lot of opportunity for us, right? So if you look at that agriculture piece, regenerative farming, we have, thousands and thousands of acres that are used for potato farming, and then we bring practices that allow those farmers to use less resources and give out more, and then regenerative agriculture that allows the land to be used. We want to be sustainable about the ingredients that we source. Earlier, we never cared. Now we've got a cluster around. We are very, very rigorous about how are we sourcing, what is certified, what is not. And then, of course, in every community that we work, we want to strengthen the livelihood of the people who are associated with what goes into the making of our products. When it comes to the value chain, we certainly leaning in on net zero. We want to be net zero by 2040, and there's a clear glide path to that. We want to be water positive, so we actually want to capture and recharge more water than we actually use, right? And that's amazing for a beverage company to actually be recharging more water than it actually physically uses. We want to use sustainable packaging, and we want to create meaningful job opportunities, and diversity and inclusion is a big part of how we want to be seen as a company. And then the third part of positive choices, so when you look at PepsiCo, the name is PepsiCo, but our offering, we have $23 billion brands, and they range from fun products to better for you products to what we call good for you products that are actually good for you. So have an offering that gives people those choices. And then if you heard about products like SodaStream, which completely eliminates, you make beverages at home, you don't need the plastic that goes with that. That's a reimagined kind of a view of how we bring sustainability. And then even on packaging, we have bags that are being tested around the world that are biodegradable, that actually become part of the soil. And so the kind of materials that we're using technology and understanding of packaging to make sure the consumer gets a great experience, but at the same time, the planet is not, the planet is protected. We work within planetary boundaries. So just bring a bit of a highlight, and I know this is an outdoor advertising forum, and I'm beginning to sound like a preacher, but I think I just want to bring this thing to about a decade or so. We didn't think we needed this, and we decided to be a good planetary citizen, a good citizen that is taking care of the planet. And it's remarkable that the results that we've got that have actually been helping. That's not where we started. We didn't say we're going to get more profit by doing this, but a lot of the measurement and work that goes into making purpose work actually drives profit. Right? So I'm not sharing the numbers, but we're a better company. Our stock has done pretty well because we've done way better at purpose. We're getting better talent. We're using less material. All that gets us more profit, right? So in India, we deal with 27,000 farmers. There's a massive program around upliftment of women and women farmers. We support the community health in the areas that we operate as farms. If you look at plastics, we create a lot of safe water. We recharge water. We collect back 100% of our bags and plastic in terms of tonnage that then get recycled. So based on the EPR, we literally collect the total weight of all the plastics that we put out. And then that now with the new regulation is getting us into recyclability. So we've launched a Pepsi Black product in 2 markets, which is actually made out of 100% plastic bottles. So we take plastic, break it up, and repack it with plastic. That was not allowed in India till about June 1st. And in 40 days of that being allowed, we were ready to get that product in the market. And then on positive choices, our fastest growing portfolio is really the portfolio with no sugar. We've always had a Pepsi Black. That took off. We've just recently launched 7-Up Zero. We've launched a Gatorade for sports folks who say, I'm exercising and I didn't want the sugar. And it's the same great tasting product, but just doesn't have the sugar. All this is possible because of an intentionality towards purpose. And I can guarantee you that intentionality has turned into metrics that have actually significantly impacted profit, right? So we started from a place of being a good citizen, but it's turning out to be, this is actually great for business, right? So as I leave you with thoughts, and I know I don't want to sound like a preacher, I just want to share a perspective of what a big company goes through. But as you look at your industry, I don't know where we are. You can play the profit route because no one's asking for it, and certainly the customers who are paying you will negotiate to get rates that don't allow you to do much of the stuff. That's a pressure that you're going to have. But the same forces that would shape any industry, any big company, are eventually going to shape you, right? Your employees are going to be looking at the kind of material you do. If a competitor is going to be using more sustainable materials and is more forward, they're going to look at you and say, why aren't you doing some of that, right? If you're looking for investors and you're not using, you're not trying to do something in this space, you're not going to get the best investors, because the best ESG money is going to go after companies that have an ESG commitment. And ultimately, the government is going to figure out a way to say, hey, I don't like what these guys are doing, let's put a tax on that, okay? Or put penalties that are anyway going to go away from your profit. So I think what I leave you with is, ask yourself, do you have an intentionality towards purpose? Because it's going to come, and when it does, it's going to be good for profit. But don't be the one who was late, be the one who was early, right? Because really, at the end of the day, we're not businesses. Businesses are ultimately made of people. We pay people, we spend something, which again goes to people. At the end of the day, this is a people thing. And therefore, not to say, I don't care, is probably not going to work in the way India is transforming, or in the world is transforming. And India is going to have a very special place as the world transforms, going to a 7 trillion economy. This is the perfect time for us to be very intentional about purpose, and I can guarantee you it'll help you with profit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Check. Thank you very much, sir. We've got a Q&A coming on right now. And we've got Mr. Alok Jalan joining us, founder at Lakshya Media Group. Welcome, sir. So 3 questions, sir. That's the rule. You answer them and choose one winner.
So I think you have enlightened the crowd here that profit is possible with purpose, and maybe more profit is possible if we drive some kind of purpose with our businesses. But I also feel that all entrepreneurs sitting here, we give employment to so many people. So in a way, I think we also have a purpose. We pay government taxes, which is used for various other things. But what large companies are doing is, like Pepsi, is really commendable. Since this is an outdoor conference, so I picked 3 questions, although there are about 50 questions, but I picked 3 questions which are, which the crowd here could relate with. So first question is, Pepsi is an impulse brand, and you should be seen more in out-of-home environment. So why Pepsi is not as visible as it used to be 20 years back in outdoor media? This question is from Nabandu Bhattacharya of Idea Cafe.
Well, I don't know if we're less visible. So, we use a lot of us. Thanks for the question. I'd say that we are visible at a lot of shop fronts, right? And there was a time when we were the cola wars were the reason to have signs. And then there came the telecom wars, and then there came the digital wars, and then there came the e-com wars. So there's just a lot more bidding for things that when we look at what we need to grow our brands and grow our penetration, some of that value we just felt was better off somewhere else. But outdoor is still a huge part of what we want to do. It's just that the relative market share that our category has got versus the other big spenders who are funded by private equity. And so they've probably got deeper pockets for the short term to make an impact. But I think we're very thoughtful and very supportive. We still do a lot of outdoor. Shopfront signage is something that we've taken a little bit of a backseat and thinking about it a little bit more strategically. But out of home, across my brands, I think we've done some really innovative work around Dew, Mountain Dew. We've done some really innovative work around Sting as our brand with Pepsi when we did the newest campaigns we did. So I think you're seeing a relative market share against the private equity funding of other industries that are willing to make bigger losses than we are. We are not out of the out-of-home industry. We are completely there, and you'll always be a very, very core part of who we are.
Thank you. But your TG is now outside their homes all the time, so I think you should rethink on your investments on out-of-home. Second question is from Rahul Shokand. If you were a media owner in 2023, what purpose would you set for your OH company?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to just give a disclaimer. I don't know your industry that well. I know that we negotiate rates and get our stuff up in a timely manner. But I'd put it through that filter. I think that filter is universal. It can be applied across multiple industries. Like, are you reducing? Do you really need to use all the stuff? First of all, what materials are you using? Like, so can you reduce? Can you use materials that are more sustainable and more recyclable? So reduce, reusable, recyclable. What kind of inks are you using? What do you do with the vinyls when they are done? How do they get moved? Can there be vinyls? I read something. I was Googling stuff on sustainability on the industry. Somewhere in the world, there is vinyls that actually breathe out carbon, take away carbon from the air. I don't know how expensive that is. But I'd say that's the reimagined part, right? So, and then LED and digital and solar funded, solar battery versus this. You know, if a place doesn't have electricity and your hoarding is working, there's something to be said about how do we fit in and be a positive change that works. You are not going to get better pricing. I think the profit is going to come from, as you work through those materials, you'll find that there are opportunities, that you avoid taxes, that you get benefits, that your employees are happy, that brands who are committed to sustainability will say, I want to work with that. So just keep that in mind, but reuse, reduce, recycle, and reimagine would be a good framework that I would put on the table.
So just to update you on this, the entire industry is using a lot of solar energy for lighting up billboards and bus shelters and all that. We are using fabric instead of vinyl. Vinyls are being used to make plastic bags and things like that. So we are giving vinyls to various CSR companies and things like that. So I think a lot of initiatives are being taken by the industry, and we'll keep on updating you guys about that. And the last question is from Bhavna Anand of Times OH. Could you share if you market your ESG initiatives? If yes, then marketing budgets are taken from regular marketing budgets, or there are separate budgets for them?
For ESG?
Yeah.
No, so ESG is not separate. ESG is core to our brands. We have more, an ESG focus around teaching and getting our teams to understand the power of PepsiCo Positive. But in the way our budgets are allocated, they're completely within the same. It has to be integrated, can't be separate, because then the brand will spend their money and say, okay, I can get something from an ESG fund. It has to be through. And then there are boundaries on what you can do and can't do. So it's really integrated. It's nothing separate, right? And there is a lot of productivity to be had. I think the challenge that's, may not be such great news for you guys, but I think a lot of companies have been thinking about how do we squeeze out productivity, because there is a lot of wasteful advertising that we've done, not on your media. I think on out of home but on TV, we have this concept Northwest Media. We have to put our ads on Northwest Media because everyone speaks Hindi. And how much that pivot to digital. So there is a lot of productivity that we find in our base marketing budgets that can then get squeezed in to make sure that we are allocating. I don't think we've done anything to slash or take away from out of home. In fact, we'll be more. The shopfront signage has taken a little bit of a strategic call, but not on the media that we support our campaigns with.
No, but question was that do you really advertise your ESG initiatives?
No, we don't.
Separately or whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that. I thought is there a separate ESG fund for the brands? PepsiCo Positive, I mean, is every time our chairman speaks anywhere at any forum, PepsiCo Positive is part of it. So we don't necessarily do advertising here in India, but I know in the US, when we launch recyclable bottles, we work as an industry because ESG is, at least in our industry, we don't think it's a compete thing, it's an us thing. And so you'll see a lot of initiatives where the industry comes together and builds some. And I was in an airport in the US when I saw it was a Coke and Pepsi and Dr. Schweppes ad together, right? Where they were talking about how bottles can get cut into pieces and made into plastic again, and then those bottles are again filled with product. On ESG, we should absolutely approach things as an industry. I don't think it's something that any one company can take on. So we do participate with industry association to further our cause, but we don't have a separate PepsiCo advertising budget for ESG. It is supportive of industry.
Thank you. So out of these 3 questions, you have to select one. The winner will get a check of 10,000 rupees.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a big, first of all, thank you for the 3 questions, and thank you for all the others. And I'd love to get copies just to know what the pulse of the room is on stuff that I talked about. But I'm a results person, and anyone who's noticed that our visibility is coming down because others have come up, is someone who's noticed something. So for that reason, I want to give the first question the award.
So although he doesn't need it, but he gets it. Navendu, you can come.
He seems to be a repeat winner all the time.
Wow, all right. I think we're going to have a cut-off if you've won it once or twice. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, once again. Debindu, Bhattacharya, congratulations, sir. This is amazing. Talk about having the right question at the right time. And of course, we've got a beautiful memento. Can we please have that brought onto stage? Requesting you to kindly put your hands together. Such clarity in that keynote on purpose.